Hey everybody, welcome to Youser, the show all about user-generated content in MMOs. I'm Jeremy, and I'm taking a look at Age of Wushu, and anybody who's familiar with my show, taking a look at like player-made housing in games and other content made by players, probably wondering why the heck am I taking a look at Age of Wushu? Because it doesn't readily seem to be user-generated or have any features like a housing maker and stuff like that. But I'll show you, or hopefully show you and explain to you why I think the fundamentals of Age of Wushu are very much in tune with today's idea of what player interaction with, and user-generated content is all about. Let me bust a move with this guy. Bam. So, some of the things I wanted to discuss is how the game makes you feel less like a video game and more like you're living inside of a world, and even more specifically how they're trying to make you feel, and I think successfully, like you're living inside of a kung fu movie. But they still have a lot of similar MMO tropes. You have instances, you have PvP, and actually in this game it's open world PvP like everywhere. You have a very interesting aspect, oh, there's a snaky snake, very interesting aspect of having the characters in the game never leave the world, even though the player logs off. Ooh, this guy's so tough. So, I'm gonna run away from this thing because it's killing me. So you have other little features that are more lifelike and more about living, I think, like kidnapping. They're interesting. You can like, because characters never leave the world when a player logs off, that player becomes susceptible to kidnapping. And that's not just... These systems, too, are weaved together. They work off of each other, they interact with each other, they're woven together, they're integrated. They're not just plug-and-play features like, oh, I want to do PvP, so I'll go and load into the PvP section of the game. Okay, now I want to do the puzzles, so now I'll load into the puzzle section. And then to be fair and equal, which I know I rant on this a lot, fairness and equality is, to me, I mean, it has its place, but I'm not talking about fairness and equality today, because I get revved up on that. Anyways, it's not about that, because a lot of games today, you see, they basically segregated and separated you, because it's the only way they can it's the only way they can fool you into thinking that you are playing fair and equal with someone else. In any sense of the term of role-playing or living in a virtual world, you have, to me, that automatically takes into consideration that you're mimicking to some degree real life. And in real life, I guess, if you nitpick, things just aren't fair. But that doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that has to lessen your enjoyment of anything. It doesn't lessen my enjoyment of anything in real life to know that the Rockefellers have all the Porsches, and I mean, it just doesn't. Like, and this game is, I think they've done it well. You can, let me warp somewhere else here while I'm blabbing and went into my rant. So the kidnapping feature, you can, when the player goes offline, they become susceptible to kidnapping. But it's not isolated, like I said, because it's open PvP world. So what happens is that player turns into like a big trash bag that's moving around. It's kind of funny to see. And then that player that did the kidnapping can haul that bag around, sort of like they're hauling a gigantic bag of laundry to the laundromat. And they can look for different NPCs, like different store owners to sell that person to. Now, it doesn't really hurt the person very much. Like when the person logs back in, they'll have sort of a small debuff. It'll say like, you've been kidnapped, so for the next this will be active for the next 4 hours, and it doesn't really do anything. But the only thing it actually does is when you try to log out again, you'll be slightly limited in the offline activities your character could potentially take part in, but only during that kidnapping period. And kidnapping can be greatly reduced by logging off in your school. Now, there is a limit. There will be a limit. It's kind of interesting how they did this, because one of the problems they thought of when the game first started being tested was, what happens if like 1 billion people start playing, and then like most of them all log out while they're in the same city? What's going to happen? Well, first of all, they never really had a problem with that yet, because even if it gets overcrowded, there's sort of an overcrowded area, like not area, but there's sort of a certain amount of overcrowdedness that is allowed for, and within that overcrowdedness, your character just simply will be limited to certain activities it could possibly take part in while you're offline. Pretty much the same limitation you get by being kidnapped and having that debuff. So in a way, that debuff kind of helps alleviate that problem, which is interesting. So, another thing you can do is do this crafting skill enhancement thing while to level up your craft. There's also things like becoming a constable to issue warrants for people's arrests. You can do a myriad of PvP features because it's all integrated, all open. There are some separated events which are awesome. There's school PvP, there's school PvP, guild PvP, then there's like an open world PvP war of some kind. Then there's numerous PvP events within the open world, which is awesome. At any time, if you're in a guild or a guild owner, you can go to different cities and start an escort quest, and it's right there. It doesn't separate you into a different instance. You start escorting a slow-moving cart around the city, and you don't fight NPCs. You just do that. Like, you start, I'm walking around escorting this, now what? Well, no, nothing really. You just keep doing that. And if other players want to, they have some incentive to fight you. And then suddenly it becomes this kind of defend the caravan kind of thing. And all these features, which I'm kind of getting off on tangents now, but all these features, in my opinion, lend to a very user-generated world, because you're actually doing the things, you're actually affecting the things. Look at this. See how I bump into look how the here, let me bump into another one. Hey, the NPCs are reactive, and watch when let me find another one here. I might have it turned off, but there's a gauge, or there was a gauge above the NPCs' heads. So all the many NPCs in this game are slightly reactive. It's really neat. Like, just simply bumping into you. And there's a thing called gossip quests. Now, gossip quests aren't marked. You don't even know. Like, see all these people walking around? Firstly, because I don't have name tags on. That's why the gauge isn't showing. But I like to not have name tags on because it's there. There's a gauge right there on that NPC, and it's kind of a happiness, sad, and kind of like a bad, sad kind of gauge towards you, how they react towards you. But the gossip quests, they're not labeled, sort of like Final Fantasy what was it, 11 or 14 now. Like, a lot of the quests you actually have to start going and talking around. Now, don't think that's going to be annoying, because there's plenty of quests that are marked. There's your story quests, then there's the regular world quests. I mean, there's like, I think there's thousands of them, literally. Plus, with the gossip quests, you never know what you'll run into. Like, you can talk to this guy, and he's saying give people what they need to live, blah, blah, blah. Now, he doesn't have one, but sometimes you'll talk to a person like that, and they'll say, I heard Sue Lin over blah, blah, blah was having trouble with her daughter. And then you can go find Sue Lin, and just like little following the breadcrumbs, track it down, and go on these gossip quests. Now, you have your personal story as well. Your personal story, think of it sort of like Guild Wars 2 personal story. You actually have little cutscenes, and you have your own adventures, and you have your own quests and adventuring to do with it, and you'll get your own updated cutscenes to update your story, because there's a certain amount of stories you get to choose from when you first create your character. And speaking of character, you only get one. This game was not built to support alts or multiple characters, and that's a very important thing to keep in mind, because it's such a different game, but it's so refreshing and fresh and fun in that. I've seen so many people get mad that it wasn't the same as 15-year-old MMO tropes. I'm like, now I know that there might be a tried and true, and like you'd be like, well, this is established, and that's the way it should be. Nah. I mean, I read a comment that literally turned me red. I mean, I don't like to pick on people, but I read a comment, and I got into this little tiff over having new ideas and stuff. And the person, I think they don't really mean it. I think they were getting mad and just trying to win the argument. But, oh, what happened? I can't run up the wall. But they basically ended up saying this big rant about how things were right and the way they should be, and that's the way they should be. And, like, really slamming home how they felt that that's the way things should be because that's the way they're right. And I'm like, no. like if that was the way it was, then we'd still have some very, very bad cultural things in our world. Because the people at that time in history really liked those things and thought that was the way things should be and should have been done. If they really pushed for non-change, I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting off on weird tangents today. So, you can see me jumping around. This is one of the freedom of movements this game has, which is just awesome. And I haven't even fully gotten all my freedom of movement. Like right now, I can only triple jump. 1, 2, 3. I can do the air dash, and I can do that in any direction. So, I can run up the wall. Run up the wall. I don't know why it's not letting me run up the wall. There we go. Run up the wall. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And that plays into combat heavily. I mean, literally, I could be a bystander watching two people fight, and it's like watching this really awesome little... I mean, it's just so fun to watch. I mean, it's like watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. With it, it's watching like the pursuer and the victim or whatever have you flee across treetops and jumping across and flying, and you can run across water. I mean, it's just... And then, now I can only run straight up a wall, right? Like this. Now, you can later get a better version of this running up the wall skill, which I forget what it's called. But you can run sideways. So I could like run that way, like go, but I could like run up the wall a little ways and then go sideways. And you can incorporate that in fighting. That's really awesome. But to keep this short, and after I did all that stupid rambling and ranting, I think this game, through through the idea of wanting you to be in a movie, they really emphasize the fact that they say, hey, we want you to feel like you're inside this movie. And you should be like, hey, that's awesome, let's do it. And it's not a forced role playing. It's not like saying this game is all about role playing. It's a role playing game. It's for a role playing game. It's super heavy on PvP because it's open world. Like if someone wanted to right now, they could come and pwn and just kick my butt right now anywhere. I mean, even in my own school, I'm not totally safe. I'm just safer because it's my school. Now, see, these are all characters that are offline right now. They're playing buskers. I could turn the names back on so you can see the nameplates, but I'm not going to do that because I love having the nameplates off. And I'm actually starting to think about turning other things off, like the mini-map. There's also the My Life section here, and which is more about crafting and showing, because you have to eat, so you have hunger. Now, what's really kind of interesting, and I haven't even fully understood all of it yet, called My Jiangyu, and this is sort of basically where you keep track of your character's life. This is where you keep track of his career and life and goals and loves and deaths and love and fear and ambitions. To go overboard. But yeah, you can look up the identity achievements. There's a host of lore cards and things to discover for exploration points. You can pray for other people. I can check out my skill records in different categories, my rankings in different life skills, or attacks, or even for inner skills. And there's hundreds, if not thousands of different skills. And the skills are interesting because they all have different levels. They all take time to level up. Now you can alter that time by doing things like really cool things like team practice. And so I could start team practice here, and basically it's like doing meditation, and it's like playing DDR. So there we go. Bam, smooth finish. Now that helps me boost the rate at which I am learning the next level of that skill that I have assigned. Because you can only level or learn one skill at a time. And this is called team practice, but you can do it solo just by skipping the start before anybody else joins. So that's something that's really cool. I could jump up to the top of that mast on that boat and then practice. I could find like an awesome waterfall scene and sit under the waterfall being a kung fu master. And that's not just role playing, it's actually going towards gameplay. And a lot of the other stuff that really blurs the line in this game between what is role playing, what is combat, and what is affecting the game or not, or just for your own enjoyment. I'm loving the game, and I'll be talking about it more, but this has gone on long enough. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Don't forget to check out every Saturday is a new episode of Youser. I also have all kinds of shows throughout the week. Every Sunday is Telon Times. Every Wednesday is my new show, Browsy, all about browser MMOs and games. And then I have 5-Minute Adventures and Dungeoneered. So check out my schedule on Google+. You can also check out About Me. Whoops, I failed. You can also check out about.me/Jeremy Stratton, and that's my kind of online internet business card now, and that has links and tells you a little bit about who I am and what I do and all my shows. So hopefully you guys tune in for Telon Times tomorrow. Vanguard, it's all about Vanguard, Saga of Heroes. It's a classic MMO that's a ton of fun, and it's very much like more of an old school living world. So with that, I'm going to sign off and say I really hope you try out Age of Wushu. I'm totally enamored by it. It's become, literally overnight, it's become like my favorite MMORPG. Literally. It's just so fun and refreshing and amazing. I really hope you at least try it out. And It does have a learning curve, sort of like EVE Online, but really, I really encourage you to look it up. And if you have any questions, being confused in it, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll help with whatever I can. Ooh, it sounds like some fighting going on. Oh, I'm being beat up. There, see, there's some people fighting. Let's try to... Oh, they're trying to fight me? They are trying to fight me. Whatever. I'm gonna try to run for it. I'm not very good at this. I wonder if they're following me. I'm afraid to look. Aha, they stopped the pursuit. I wasn't interested in getting pwned while I was doing it. With that, I'm signing off, and have a good week, and I'll see you guys next video.